Listen, I've watched this franchise stumble through rebuild after rebuild, promising patience while simultaneously hemorrhaging talent and squandering opportunities. But what happened this week? This wasn't your typical, let's throw darts at a board and hope something sticks approach. This was surgical. This was intentional. And frankly, it's about damn time Montreal's front office showed some backbone. Two moves, two completely different philosophies, colliding in perfect harmony. Alexandre Texier and Adam Engstrom aren't household names that'll dominate SportsCenter highlights, but in the brutal arithmetic of an 82-game NHL season, these are exactly the types of calculated risks that separate playoff teams from lottery picks. So buckle up, because we're about to dissect why these seemingly modest transactions could fundamentally alter Montreal's entire season trajectory. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Alexandre Texier was just cut loose by the St. Louis Blues after an 8-game stint that produced exactly one assist. One. For a 26-year-old forward who once flashed legitimate NHL potential with Columbus, that's not just underwhelming, it's career-threatening. The Blues essentially looked at him and said, "Thanks, but no thanks." That's the hockey equivalent of getting ghosted after a first date. But here's where Kent Hughes and the Canadiens' brain trust saw something everyone else missed. Texier didn't just sign with Montreal because they were the only team willing to take a chance. According to multiple reports, he actually turned down larger contract offers to join the Habs. Read that again. A player coming off a disastrous audition chose Montreal despite having more lucrative options on the table. Why? What does Texier see in this organization that we're not seeing? The answer lies in opportunity. In St. Louis, Texier was fighting for scraps in a crowded forward group with established veterans blocking every meaningful minute. In Montreal, he's walking into a situation where Alex Newhook's 4-month absence has created a gaping hole in the lineup. The Canadiens aren't just offering ice time, they're offering purpose. They're offering a chance to resurrect a career that was quietly circling the drain. At $1 million for 1 year, this contract is essentially a no-risk proposition. If Texier flames out, Montreal cuts bait and moves on. If he rediscovers even 70% of the player who posted 12 goals and 30 points with Columbus 2 years ago, you just acquired a legitimate depth contributor for pennies on the dollar. That's not desperation. That's shrewd asset management. But let's talk about what Texier actually brings to this roster beyond the numbers. Montreal's power play has been a dumpster fire for stretches this season. Newhook's injury didn't just remove a body from the lineup. It removed a solution. Texier has proven power play experience. He can play wing or center. He understands how to find soft ice and create offensive opportunities when the extra man is on. More importantly, this move takes pressure off Nick Suzuki. The Canadiens' captain has been operating at maximum capacity all season. Power play, penalty kill, shutdown minutes, playing through what appears to be a lingering foot injury. Suzuki's been asked to do everything, and that's unsustainable over 82 games. By inserting Texier into the lineup, Montreal gives Suzuki breathing room. They create depth, they build redundancy. And in a league where injuries are inevitable and fatigue is real, that redundancy could be the difference between a wild card berth and another spring watching playoff from home. Now let's pivot to Adam Engstrom, because this is where things get genuinely fascinating. At 21 years old, Engstrom has been absolutely dominating the AHL. 5 goals and 14 points in 18 games with Laval, currently sitting third in scoring among Rocket defensemen. And that Saturday night performance against Belleville, 1 goal, 5 points and a 7-2 demolition. That wasn't just a good game. That was a statement. The Canadiens don't call up prospects on a whim. There's no room for sentimentality in professional hockey. When Montreal decided to bring Engstrom on their Midwest road trip, they were essentially declaring, "We believe you're ready for this level." That's not a participation trophy. That's a vote of confidence that could define this young player's entire career trajectory. Engstrom will likely see action as a replacement for either Jaden Struble or Arber Shakaj at some point during this trip. That's not a guarantee of immediate stardom, but it's an opportunity. And in the NHL, opportunities are the most valuable currency a young player can possess. You can have all the talent in the world, But if you never get the chance to prove it at the highest level, that talent means nothing. What makes Engstrom's call-up particularly intriguing is the timing. Montreal is the youngest team in the NHL. That youth brings tremendous upside, speed, skill, hunger, but also brings vulnerability. Young teams make young mistakes. They struggle with consistency. They get bullied by veteran-laden opponents who know how to exploit inexperience. By calling up Engstrom now, Montreal is betting that his AHL dominance translates to NHL competence. They're betting that his hockey IQ, his skating ability, and his offensive instincts are developed enough to survive the speed and physicality of the best league in the world. That's a significant gamble. But here's the thing. If you never take the gamble, you never find out. Lane Hutson wasn't supposed to be NHL ready this quickly, and now he's one of the most exciting young defensemen in the entire league. Sometimes you just have to throw your prospects into the deep end and see if they can swim. Step back for a moment and look at what Montreal is really doing here. These aren't isolated transactions. They're part of a larger philosophy that's finally starting to crystallize. The Canadiens are refusing to choose between competing now and building for tomorrow. They're doing both simultaneously. Texier represents the short-term fix. He's a veteran depth piece that every playoff team needs. He's the insurance policy against injury. He's the pressure valve that allows your stars to breathe. He's not going to carry your team to the Stanley Cup Finals, but he might be the difference between winning 38 games and winning 45 games. And in the Eastern Conference, where the playoff race is a knife fight every single season, those 7 extra wins could mean everything. Engstrom represents the long-term vision. He's the bet on the future. He's the acknowledgement that Montreal's rebuild only works if the young players actually develop into impact NHLers. You can draft all the prospects you want, but if they never make the jump to the big club, you're just spinning your wheels. By calling up Engstrom now, Montreal is accelerating his development timeline. They're saying, we're not going to let you marinate in the AHL for 3 years. We're going to challenge you right now. That's the mark of an organization that understands its moment. Let's be brutally honest about Alex Newhook's injury. Losing a player for 4 months is devastating. Newhook was finally starting to find his rhythm in Montreal after a rocky start to his Canadiens career. He was contributing offensively. He was playing with confidence. And then in an instant, he's gone for a third of the season. That kind of injury can derail a team's entire season. It can expose depth issues. It can force players into roles they're not ready for. It can create a cascading effect where one injury leads to another because players are overextended. But Montreal is choosing to view Newhook's absence as an opportunity rather than a crisis. They're using it as a chance to see what Texier can do. They're using it as a reason to accelerate Engstrom's development. They're refusing to let adversity become an excuse. That's the mentality of a team that believes in itself. That's the mentality of a coaching staff that trusts its system. That's the mentality of a front office that's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. When Montreal takes the ice against Utah on Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, we'll get our first real glimpse of whether these moves actually matter. Will Texier slot seamlessly into the lineup and provide the stability Montreal desperately needs? Will Engstrom look overwhelmed by the speed and physicality of NHL competition? Or will he prove he belongs at this level? The answers will come soon enough. But what we know right now is this. Montreal just made 2 moves that suggest a front office thinking clearly, acting decisively, and refusing to accept mediocrity. In a league where depth wins championships and development separates contenders from pretenders, that matters. Can Texier actually recapture the form he showed in Columbus? Or are we witnessing the final chapter of a career that never quite lived up to its potential? Is Engstrom genuinely ready for this moment? Or is Montreal throwing him into the fire too soon and risking long-term damage to his confidence? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button if you think these moves could be the spark Montreal needs to turn this season around. And subscribe if you want to stay locked in on every twist, turn, and transaction as the Canadiens navigate what could be the most pivotal stretch of their rebuild. This is just the beginning.